Hey guys, I want to tell you about one of my favorite new companies, and that is Rep Provisions. So I met these guys at PaleoFX last year where they were just blowing everyone away with their beef sticks and pecan nut butter combo packs that are outrageously delicious. But as I talked to them, I was even more blown away because I found out what they were about. They are a regenerative agriculture company committed to the future of the planet by the proper management of cattle. So they are regenerating America's grasslands with the management of their cattle. Look into it. It's amazing. They have everything from, of course, high quality grass-fed, grass-finished beef to Mongolisa pork, which is like the Wagyu of pork, to bone broth popsicles, pecan nut butters, like I said, and so many amazing things. Go support them and support the future of our planet. And they're giving you 15% off for being a Kick-Ass Life podcast listener. So use coupon code KICKASSLIFE and get 15% off at repprovisions.com.
Hey everyone, we're going to take a minute here at the top of the show to chat with you about some of our sponsors who are offering incredible discounts for you and your family. We also only align ourselves with companies that we know are providing safe and healthy products, and also products that we actually consume on a regular, if not sometimes daily basis. And one of those companies is Primal Kitchen. Primal Kitchen products are incredible because they are dairy-free, gluten-free, grain-free, soy-free with no refined sugar. And they are delicious. So visit primalkitchen.com to check out the vast array of products available and use code KICKASSLIFE for 10% off. Hey everyone, welcome to this week's episode where I am going to interview my co-host Tara and get to know her a little bit more as well. Along with you, I have a bunch of random questions. She has no idea what I'm going to ask her. So I'm not going to throw any curveballs or anything crazy, but we'll see. How you doing, Tara?
It's a good thing I'm open book. I have like no shame. It's probably to a fault. So just go ahead. I'm like the juicier the better.
All right.
Let's
Well, let's
go.
just start off with some basics. You did grow up on the East Coast in Virginia, right? But what
Yep.
kind of environment was it? Was it suburban? Was it city-like? What do you remember?
Yep. I grew up in the suburbs of Richmond, Virginia, Chesterfield County. If any of my people are still following me, a few of them are from high school, which is super fun. It was, lower, I'd say lower middle class, middle, kind of average middle class neighborhood. We were probably struggling to be there, but a single mom, 5 kids. My dad was in the picture. He was just, very typical 80s, 90s, every other weekend dad, paid his child support diligently, but you know what I mean? That was kind of the situation. And it was most of the time with my mom. So that's where I grew up. And I love Virginia. I love it so much. It's beautiful if you've never been there. Love the people. Sometimes I miss like the South. One thing I love about people in the South is they tell it like it is. That's one of my most favorite qualities in a human being is like, please God, just
Really?
don't be
That's so
fake.
funny because
Just say what you're thinking.
that's so weird. I don't think of the South that way. I think of it more passive aggressive, like, oh, bless her heart and all that kind of stuff. Whereas I
It,
see East Coast and North being like fucking just telling it like it is. So that's an interesting observation because I
well,
don't think of that.
Virginia is a different kind of South. So it's not like
Oh,
deep South. And actually, Richmond, where I grew up, is kind of like the cutoff. So Richmond and below, you'll get more of like Southern accents. Like it's a little bit more Southern. You go up to Northern Virginia by DC, and it's not the South, really,
mhm,
barely,
mhm. Right.
But Virginia's kind of their own flavor. But like one thing I love about Virginians, any Virginian I've ever known, is like as soon as you meet them, they feel like your best friend. Like you just there's no filter, there's no holding back for most people anyway. So
Nice.
that's like one of my favorite qualities of Virginians.
That's
Shout out.
interesting. What's one of your like favorite memories of fun as a kid? Like what just did you love to do, or just a memory that comes up of something fun you did?
You know, it's funny. The first thing that came to my mind was kickball. So one thing a lot of the work that I've done with psychedelics and healing and returning to my child self, I really look back at like what did I love doing as a little kid, and it was always outside and it was always being active. I loved being in nature, so I was fortunate enough in my backyard. Like my backyard just led into forest, right? There was
Awesome.
just trees and woods back there. My brothers built a fort. There was like a little stream we would wade through and catch crawdads and I would see if squirrels could talk. Turns out they couldn't talk. I tried though when I was little. Just playing out there in nature
Yeah.
was like a huge part of my life. Always organizing kickball games or something after school. So as a little kid, we were too poor for me to be in organized sports. I wanted to be in gymnastics so bad. I dreamed of that. Like still to this day, it's like I wish so bad I
Wouldn't
could
that be so
tumble.
much fun to be able to do the things that they do? Like every
The
time I watch
tumbling,
gymnastics in the Olympics, I'm like, oh yeah. And I think a lot of kids and I too had
yeah.
that thing where you're like, oh, that would have been fun.
yeah, to flip your body around like that. Like, I mean, to this day,
The
it is like,
parallel bars and stuff. Like, oh my gosh.
yeah. Yeah. So cool. So anyway, I was too poor to do that kind of stuff, but I was always active. And so I look at that now, and a lot of people, I just went to Costco, for example, and this lady was walking by and she's like, nice legs. And I'm like, thank you. And she's like, that's a lot of hard work. And I was like, well,
You're
thank you.
like, yeah, it is.
I was like, thank you. I just love it, and that's the thing is like, sometimes I feel like it's like I don't want to put pressure on other women to look a certain way. Like if they see my legs and that they're strong, by the way, they used to not be, and we can get into that in a minute. They were definitely where I held the most body fat and like not at all, something someone would aspire to from an aesthetic standpoint. But as I've embraced what I love, like that has shifted and changed. And so like a lot of times I'm like, I just want to share that. It's like my fitness, my consistency in fitness, it's not really like because I have to, it is because I want to. Like I will put other things to the side because literally like it's like juicy in my heart, like, "Ugh, I just want to go play. I just want to get in there and go play." Like that's how it feels to me. Like I can't wait to do it. So I would say, like if that's not your thing, if weightlifting is not your thing or going to the gym's not your thing, please don't pressure yourself for that to be your thing. If it's not, like find your way of expressing health that you love. I just happen to love it. I didn't always love it though. I will say that it was a learned love, but once I got to that point, like it's such a beautiful release. It's recess. That's what I call it, So just like playing kickball after school or playing outside in the woods, I still do recess. I work from home. So going to the gym or going for a hike outside, it's recess for me. I can't wait. It's like, yay, I finally get out and get to go play, So yeah.
Love it. What was your favorite music or band when you were a kid?
Shout out.
School.
All right. Shout out to my childhood best friend, Becky, if she's listening to this. We were huge Silverchair fans, but really only because we thought the lead singer was hot. He had long
Silverchair. I've never heard of him.
I was very much into alternative music, grunge, alternative, Nirvana, Smashing Pumpkins. That kind of vibe was definitely my jam. I also loved, Weezer, all those kind of bands, Green Day.
Okay. Wow. I'm a little shocked. I was not expecting this answer. So keep going.
Wow. Yeah. And my daughter loves all that music now. So it's like so great because I introduce her to new bands all the time where she's like, oh, this is great. But yeah, I was definitely an alternative grunge type music lover for sure. I still had like some of my hip hop and stuff that I like too. Cause I mean, if you were a kid in the 90s, like if you didn't listen to Tupac, there's like something wrong with you, but yeah, for the most part, I was definitely like the alternative type. I had always had crush on the little skater kids, that girl.
That's my next question. What was your like child teenage crush in terms of like either an actor out there or celebrity or a musician, like did you have some sort of crush on someone specifically that you can remember?
Gosh, I used to get those little magazines that were like Bop or something.
Yeah, Tiger Beat. Yep.
Yeah. Like those little magazines where they have all the little heartthrobs, and I had like pictures of boys all pinned up in my room. I remember part of it was like JTT. What was it? Jonathan Taylor Thomas, that kid.
Oh,
that's when I was really little. I didn't really like him. It was just kind of like you were supposed to like him, that kind of thing. I'm trying to think. Gosh, I don't even know. Childhood crush. It's just, I guess the Silverchair singer, any of those like kind of long haired, grungy, emo, mysterious. It's funny. That's definitely not my type now, but as a kid, that was my thing.
Sort of the opposite of a positive question, but what are colors that you're like, ugh, that you're like, nope, I don't like those colors?
Ooh, that's really tough for me because I really like colors. That's one thing my mom always like distinguished about me as a kid. She's like, Tara loves colorful things, bright colors, bright color. It's interesting because in my house I do a lot of like neutrals and things, but I don't think I could pick a color. I mean, I guess if I had to pick a color I wasn't super hot about, it'd be gray. Like dark, bland browns and grays. But
so you're open. You don't have any like negative or positive feelings towards the spectrum. You kind of like all of it.
I love all color. Actually, the more colors, the better. I like big, bold colors. I love green is definitely my favorite color because it reminds me of nature. But I love all colors.
What? When was your first kiss?
Oh man. You know what's funny? My son is 13 and he just had his first little girlfriend and it was a shit show, Elle. It was so bad. I was like, okay, learning lessons. Like she had a lot of emotional issues. I was like, my heart was breaking. I'm trying to like kind of coach him through it to be like a kind gentleman, but also like hold his own space and, do what's right for him. But he was asking me, he's so sweet. Like he's so open, Jerem. He's like, Mom, how do you kiss a girl? I was like, my heart was going to die that he felt comfortable enough with me to
That's
ask
so
me that.
sweet.
I know.
I
I was
can't.
like, well, I mean, I was like, first thing before you even get into that, I was like, just know that like your first kiss, that's something you're going to remember the rest of your life. So like, just make sure whenever you choose that, like you're thinking, is this the one that I want to like tell for the rest of my life when you're on a podcast and when you're 38 years
Yeah.
old, is this one? So mine was not, no, but it was at Busch Gardens amusement park
Florida?
with some boy in Virginia. They have one there too.
Okay.
It was some boy that I met and walked around the park with all day with my best friend. I remember it was like so weird. I was like, that was weird. That was so weird.
Was that your first like French kiss? Like,
Yeah, it was my first French kiss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, you're like, that's weird.
I was
Like,
like, I
no,
just thought it was
anyway.
weird. I don't think it's weird anymore. Quite a fan, but it was weird back then.
That's so cute. What are some strong pet peeves where you're like, fucking
Oh
hate
my
that?
gosh. You want to know a really weird pet peeve that I have definitely identified and my kids know? Something rolling around on the floor of the car. Like if you want to make me crazy,
Like a bottle, loose
like a
bottle in the
bottle,
back.
especially one of my blender bottles from the gym that has like the little rattler thing inside, and I'm like turning and it's roll. It makes me feel like my whole life is a mess. Like I really
Everything's fucking out of order. Yeah.
yes, I really just like messiness. I would say in general, like if my environment isn't like organized and clean around me, it has a major impact on me. That's super, super important to me. That's been a challenge, honestly, as a mom. Like I've really had to learn to like have designated areas to kind of let go. So like
Yeah.
our basement area is like, dude, just don't worry about it for the whole day.
Mhm,
You know,
right.
just like kind of like keep it, you know, but and the kids know like kitchen, living room stuff upstairs, like that's got to stay clean. Cause it's just, yeah, that I would say disorganization is really hard for me.
What about that's a thing not related to people? Is there any pet peeves related to people, either behaviors, certain types, certain outlooks,
You know
certain
what?
expressions?
Yeah, the only thing that really bothers me with people is when they have intentional bad intentions, right? So they're
Malintent.
yeah, malintent. Like they purposely like want to make somebody feel bad, you know, for their own selfish desires
Yeah.
or kind of just like want to use somebody to like make themselves feel better or like and it's real obvious that they're like doing that. Like that's I don't know if it's a pet peeve, but it definitely turns me off. I'm like, ooh, that's yucky energy. I don't want to be around that.
Yeah, absolutely. What's a skill or talent that you wish you had?
Tumbling.
You mean
Tumbling,
you mean like
like
floor
gymnastics,
exercise?
tumbling, or like
Are
dancing
you
really
talking about
cool.
in the Olympics where they like start off at the corner and they do this whole thing like routine and then
Yes.
they yeah,
Or you're
okay,
just like
that's the
they go
thing.
running and they're just like flip,
Yes.
flip, 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 flip. I'm like, that is so freaking cool. I wish I could do
So
that.
freaking cool.
Or like the B-boys dancing where they can pop and lock and like do all that cool. Like I'm like, I wish I could do stuff like that with my body so bad. I geek out really hard on that. Just anything where I see like incredible mastery of the human body. Like I wish I could do all those things. That's really cool.
What okay, so when you applied to BYU, which is the Mormon, right?
Yep.
University?
Yes.
And you had come directly from Virginia, right? Is that
Yep.
your first time
Yep.
in Utah? So
Yep.
let me ask you this. And I know you've talked about it before where you're like, I could have gone into different schools, but I wanted to go to Mormon. Was it because you wanted a future in the Mormon church, or was it like, what was it about it that was like, I want to go to BYU of all places
I
versus the other?
I wanted to be around more Mormons
Okay.
because growing up, like in Virginia, a lot of people in high school, they didn't even know what Mormon was. So I was like the weird girl and a little bit, you know, like
Mhm.
part of it was chosen because in the Mormon church, they kind of teach you to like not go to parties, don't put yourself in an environment where there might be like drinking or like sinning or whatever. So I just like it was kind of sad in a way because I had a lot of like I'll be real, like my friends at school were like the smart kids, you know, like I had a bunch of classes with like and they were cool, you know, they were cool people and they tried to like kind of bring me in and invite me to stuff. And I purposely like didn't because I didn't want to be put in an environment where I might be tempted to sin or whatever. Right. So that slowly towards the end of high school, that got like worse and worse because I'm eating lunch with them and hanging out with them, but like they're all doing stuff outside of school that I'm not doing with them. I'm just hanging out with my Mormon friends on the weekends from church that live like half an hour away. And so, like, it just felt like I didn't have very many people I could relate to fully at home. And so like going to Utah where it's like, not to mention, yes, like you're very much taught that you should marry a Mormon boy. Like I definitely wanted to marry a Mormon guy. And so like the pot at home was very small. And I wanted just that experience to be it to me. Going to BYU felt like I could be friends with and date whoever I wanted, like have more options. So
Yeah.
it's kind of the Mormon dream when you're a teenager growing up. LDS is like to go to BYU. Plus it's kind of hard to get into. So it's like a dream. Yeah.
Did you ever even meet any non-Mormon people at BYU? I mean, does that exist?
Yeah, it does exist. Athletes. So some of the
Oh,
athletes aren't Mormon. And I'm like, dude, I was like, you guys are you're either saints or you're lying because they have to sign the Mormon, honor code. It's crazy.
oh, you
Like
do. So, because it's a private religious school. Yeah.
right.
Okay.
Yeah, you have to live by their rules. So as an example, like my dorms, my freshman year, like we had like 2 hours once a week that boys were allowed to come in and it was all supervised. You know what I mean?
Oh, it was like
So there's
chaperoned?
yeah, by like what would you call them? Like the hall monitor,
Right.
basically,
The
an older
RA,
person. Yeah, the RA. Yeah. So yeah, tons of rules. No drinking, no, alcohol. Like you have to wear like shorts down to your knees, even like, no
Okay. So
tank
yeah,
tops.
real dress code and
Yeah. So I was like, man, if you're going to go there and you're not Mormon, like,
that
damn,
sucks.
you must have really wanted that scholarship.
Yeah, that's right. That you really wanted that.
Yeah.
All right. Now you've spoken in the past about leaving the Mormon church and other stuff like that, but and I might have asked you this privately, but I think it'd be interesting to talk about it publicly if you're willing. What were the things that went red flag that tipped you off to look further, if any? But what was the tip off or
Yep.
the something that made you dig deeper to go and then you found stuff that made you go, I don't like this?
Yeah. I can't remember exactly what year. I'm assuming it's probably somewhere around like 2010 to 2013, somewhere in there. The church released a bunch of, they called them the essays. They released a bunch of essays. And basically what it was the LDS church finally addressing a bunch of messed up stuff that a lot of people had issues with, like not giving Black people the priesthood for way too long. Or, just other issues that people had. And one of them was, and I'm reading these as a Mormon person. I had no qualms with the church. I had no doubts. I had no nothing. I was like way all in, but I saw that the church had released these. So I'm reading them. And one of them was about Joseph Smith, the founder of Mormonism, and his polygamy. And I was reading about it, and the church is admitting, I'm getting this off of LDS.org. They're admitting that Joseph Smith had all these wives, and one of them was like a 14-year-old. Some of them were teenagers, and I'm reading it, and I'm like, you know what? I did not know that. And I
Okay,
think
so is this something that, let me ask you, why would they release that info now and never teach it prior? I know they were obviously probably hiding it for reasons, but that seems sort of like, why would you release that information? I mean,
because
we
so
all
many
knew, by the
people
way,
were.
we all knew that out here. I know you guys didn't
Well,
know it in
no,
there.
no. We knew about polygamy. I mean,
Okay.
we totally knew about polygamy, but, and this is why I bring this up to my other Mormon friends, and they're like, "Yeah, I knew that," and I'm like, "Did you really?" Because like this is the story that's told from inside Mormonism.
Okay.
They start going across the plains from, the first they go to Chicago, they're getting like beat out, like kicked out of Chicago basically, and they go across the plains all the way to Utah, right? Joseph Smith dies in Illinois. The next leader of the church is Brigham Young. So Brigham Young University, right? So Brigham Young takes them out there. The story told inside the Mormon church is that so many men died crossing that there were these women that needed husbands. And so that's why they start, that's basically why God said, start polygamy. So these women wouldn't be like left to fend for themselves out in Utah. Guess what? That's not true. If you look at the census records, there were actually more men than women in Utah at that time. So that little story wasn't true. But even if you take away that story and you say, oh, well, like, that's just a story. Like God told Brigham Young to do it, and that's all that matters. Even you take that away, I look back, I was as Mormon as it gets. Okay. Like I went to especially for youth, like Mormon camps every year. I paid money to go to them and get like extra indoctrinated. They were really fun. They were really fun as usually, never mind. I don't want to be so offensive that if anybody who's LDS is listening, like can't handle what I'm saying. Right. So I'm trying to be, honest and also considerate. But I also like went to BYU and studied religion at Brigham Young University, the church's own school. I served in leadership positions all throughout my adult life to the point I'm 33 years old. I was currently the president in my congregation of the Young Women's Organization, which is girls who are 12 to 18 years old. I
Right.
approached it as my full-time job. I read scriptures daily on my own. I was studying the church's Preach My Gospel. It's this other thing that they invite you to do. I'm doing Monday nights as family home evening with my kids. I've got my kids memorizing one of the church documents. You know what I mean? I'm like as Mormon as it gets, okay? Like it's not like I like just wasn't paying attention or missed something. And I had to admit, I'm like, I did not know that Joseph Smith had all these wives. I knew that they had polygamy in Utah, but no, like maybe it got mentioned somewhere, but it's very vague. I knew that Joseph Smith had Emma and they were his wife, and they were like portrayed as this like couple goals, power couple. Everybody wants to be like Joseph and Emma. And I'm like, where were all these other like 30 women? I don't remember us talking about that a lot. So that was where it started for me. It was
Let me
like,
ask you on that note, did you guys did you then later find out the true story of Joseph Smith and why he was he was killed by a mob? I believe, I could be wrong, but it was based on the fact that he was like, prophecy 135, multiple wives, and like half of the people were like,
yeah,
right?
yeah. I found that out later, but you're not going to find that out from the church. And so here's how
Right.
here's what happens is they tell you from as early as I can remember to not look at anti-Mormon literature is what they call it. It's a little bit of an outdated phrase because it started when there wasn't the internet, but they tell you, you hear that constantly. Don't look at anything outside of the church because it's all like lies from
Which is
Satan.
and not to say that Mormonism is a cult, but that is where it is very similar,
Yeah.
because no Christian or Catholic is told not to go Google something
Yeah.
about scripture,
Yep.
about their religion. So they're trying to keep you away from the information that you ultimately found out.
Yeah. So
That must have
basically what
pissed you off.
yeah, basically what happened, years went by after I read that. It was just this moment of like, oh, that's how come I didn't know that? Like,
Yeah.
that's
Like, why
weird.
are we worshiping this guy who I think is
But
immoral? Or, no.
but I still worshiped him. I still like even the summer before I left, I took all of my youth down to it's called the Mormon Miracle Pageant in Central Utah, and it's all about Joseph Smith. And I'm sitting there bearing my testimony about how he was a prophet. Like I totally dismissed it. And it wasn't until that summer I went to girls camp, for the girls, and there was this girl portraying Emma Smith, and it was this faith walk thing, and everybody dressed up like somebody from scriptures and stuff. And this girl, she is just like, man, this moment I'll never forget it. It's this cute little like 17-year-old sweetheart. She's like reading her little paper because she didn't she didn't memorize her thing or like she was supposed to. She got a little bonnet on. She's dressed up like a pioneer, Mormon pioneer, and she's like, "Hi, I'm Emma Smith, and I married Joseph when he worked for my dad and he lived in our house, and my dad didn't like him very much. So we eloped." And I already had like some stuff going on in my mind about like, why did he have all these wives? Like, what is going on there? Like, what? I'm confused. And why haven't we been told this? And so when she said my dad didn't like him, he lived in my house, and I knew that the 14-year-old girl that he first married was a servant girl in their house. So I'm like, I'm seeing some patterns here. Wait a minute. He lived in your house too, and he's getting with you, and the dad didn't like him. And so that's interesting.
Well, I mean, I think you expressed that to me. And I thought that was a very interesting observation where you're like, wait a minute, this guy's like Mr. Couple Goals. Why didn't the dad like
him.
Right.
That's all I wanted to know.
It would be a different story if they were going to try to portray
That's it. That question right there is what the wall came tumbling down for me, because I just wanted to know why her dad didn't like him. That's it. I just want to know, what was the story there? Like, why didn't he like him? Why did they go elope? Like, that doesn't seem like a great thing to do as this like super upstanding man. Like
not a very Mormon thing to do, is it?
Yeah, I was like, what's the backstory there? And so anyway, basically what happened was like when I finally decided to click on a link on the Google search results that wasn't LDS.org or Mormon.org and like get an answer from outside, it was like it pisses me off, honestly, because it's like I literally felt like, oh, here comes, maybe Satan's gonna get me. Like, what the crap, dude? Like, that's so messed up. And so like it was the information I found, I was so paranoid that like Satan was trying to get me that I would go verify it in church records and make sure that they weren't lying to me. And then when I found out they weren't, I was like, dude, this is messed up. This stuff is all actually verifiable. Oh my gosh, they're just only telling parts of the story that sound good, and they're not telling the whole story. I was pissed after 3 weeks of research. Like I was faced with a pivotal moment in my life because
Yeah.
everyone I knew was Mormon. Everything I had built my life on was Mormonism. So for me to go and say, and by the way, I'm still the president of the Young Women's Organization at this time. I mean, I can't tell you the freaking stress that I was under because I had to either choose sort of comfort of like, oh, well, I know this stuff isn't
Familiarity.
true, but I guess I'll just like kind of keep going because this is my life here, or stand up for myself and say, this is effing bullshit and I won't stand for it. And I'm not going to step into that building another day on a like principles that caused me to build my whole entire life on a lie. Like my whole life is a lie. Like I literally had that moment for real. That's what it felt like. It was so frustrating. It was so difficult. And yeah, but if I had to put it this way, it was 100 times worse than I thought it was going to be leaving Mormonism. It was a million times more worth it than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
last question on that is, based on these beliefs that you later found out, I mean, anyone who believes something wholeheartedly and later finds out it's not true or the information was skewed, that's a rough moment. So how has that experience changed how you receive or believe incoming information or facts that are presented to you? Because I would imagine that I would hope you are a critical thinker, or if someone's like throwing out a fact to you, you're like, I'm going to go double check that shit. I would think, but I don't know. I mean, are you worried about that sometimes, about like,
definitely. I love that question so much. Thank you. That's such an insightful question. You know what's interesting? When I was a little kid, I was always like very academic. I've always been very academic. I've always excelled, honestly, in like whatever I dedicate myself to. And so in school, I always had like perfect grades, perfect reports, behavior and academically. But you know what? The one thing that I would not have a perfect score on a lot as a little kid, critical thinking skills. And I was like, dude, what the crap, And what's interesting about that is I look at myself as an adult, and I do feel like I was lacking there because I feel like I was trained to not think critically. I feel like I was trained to just absorb and believe. And like, if you're critically, like the LDS church, I'm sorry, but like, it's disgusting to me, some of the stuff, because they have a saying that says, doubt your doubts. Doubt your doubts is like a phrase they use all the time. Right. And I'm like, dude, that's freaking messed up. And I lived in that paradigm. There's so much warm fuzzy all attached to it that I was like, okay. So I just like the Joseph Smith finding out he had all these wives and no one ever told me, I dismissed that for years instead of just being like, hey, pay attention to that. That's messed up. So yeah, like I'm so grateful for it because one, I'll say I am grateful for my time as a Mormon because there are a lot of cool, leadership qualities and like just being a good person, watch out for the underdog.
On family.
Somebody's left behind at a party, like, go like include them. Like, I was taught good things, lots of good things during my time as Mormonism. And I want to clarify, the people that I know that are Mormon are freaking awesome people.
Sure.
And I think that they are looking for something more deep in their lives. Right. And so like, I see that, like, I love my people in my life who are Mormon. So no disrespect. I'm just simply sharing what has happened to me as a human being in this evolution. But I will say, like one of the most beautiful things about when you go from being so right about something, like I was so right that like it was my mission to like enlighten the rest of the world about how right I was about Mormonism. When you go from feeling that right about something to finding out you were dead effing wrong, it changes you as a human being. And so it's so beautiful. I love that quality in myself now because what it has caused me to do is run things through my own filter of truth or critically think. It has caused me to like intake information and I'm like, and I mull it around in my mouth and I'm open to it. I'm like, okay, I'm open to that. I could be seeing, there's a new way I could see things. So as a baseline, I feel that the way I'm seeing things now, that could be improved upon, that could be, or shifted, and that could make my life better. So it's led me to be in that state all the time, but it's also caused me, like when somebody comes at me with, hey, Tara, so this is how it works. There's multiple lives. And after the first one, this happens. Like when somebody comes at me like that, I'm like, but that's cool. Thank you for sharing how you see it. That's cool. And until I feel like that's true to me inside my soul, like I'm just taking it as input. I'm not like just accepting that. And so it's helped me professionally in relationships, just in general in my life. So it's made me very open, but it's also made me a much more critical thinker.
That's a great thing. Last Mormon question. If you had to take a guess, how much do you think you and your family members have given the Mormon church over all the years?
Money wise? Yeah. Or energy? Man,
money.
Time?
Well, time is money. So I know a shitload of time. I know that. But how much money do you think?
Oh man, I don't know. Actually, our mutual friend Drew Manning was LDS growing up too, and he shared something. Not to, he doesn't speak about it a lot. He's not a practicing Mormon anymore either. He's very respectful. But he shared something on like Twitter or something, maybe a year or so ago, and it was like he was frustrated because it's been leaked that the LDS Church has like $1 billion, right, or something, or is it
Yes.
more than that? Is it like
It's
more than
over
that?
a billion, but
It's
yeah.
over a billion. And they like raised the prices for people to send their kids on missions. So you're sending your kid on an LDS mission to grow and expand the church to bring in more money, and you have to pay for them to go on that mission. And these people in like third world countries, like giving everything they have to be able to have these kids go out and be missionaries. Even in the US, it's a huge financial sacrifice, like I don't know what
Yeah.
it is now, but back when my brother went, it was like $800 a month. My mom was like barely had enough money for food. Like that's crazy
You mean when I
expense.
go on a mission as a Mormon, I have to pay for it?
You have to pay for it. Yeah. And
That
then
makes me angry. That makes me a little angry.
yeah, and they have all that money, and
Yeah.
like they're going to serve for free. They're not getting paid
Like pay
either.
your salespeople.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. They're not even just like paying for them to go. Like, you know what I mean? Like they're working for free and they're paying to do it. Like it's nuts town. I mean, I'm sure it's
Okay.
subsidized a little bit the cost by the church, but I knew Drew was like upset by that. And I same way, man, because I saw the sacrifice that had to happen in my family. Like somebody from our church congregation had to help pay for my brother to even be able to go. And like anyway, money, I have no freaking idea. I mean, it was 10% of your gross income before taxes is what we would
Damn.
pay.
That's
And
what the
then
tithing was? Okay.
yeah, and then like but you know
Did
what's
people
cool?
get shit for not giving that? Was anyone
You can't go
challenged
to
on it?
oh, you can't go to the temple. You're not worthy to go to the temple unless you pay your tithing. It's a
Oh,
big
are you
deal.
serious?
Yeah, yeah. You
So it's not like Christianity where it's like, oh, voluntary, you give it the
no, no, no,
basket
no,
or you
no.
don't.
You have to go meet with your bishop at the end of every year and make sure that you're paid up. And so
Oh
like
my
if some
God. I did not know that.
yeah, so if somebody in your
Holy shit. That sucks.
let's say somebody in your family is getting married in the temple, you're not paid up on your
So
tithing.
you
You're not
can't
going.
technically be Mormon unless you can afford it.
Pay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay,
No,
that's
you're not in
I
good
did not know
standing.
this. This is revelatory
You're
for
not in
me.
good standing with God unless you're paid up on your tithing. So that's how it works. You can't go do it. So the temple is like where all the highest covenants are. You're not allowed to go unless you're paid up on tithing. So yeah.
Oh my God. Okay. Moving on. That was fascinating. You have 4 kids.
Hmm.
How were their births? Were they all natural? Were they difficult? Were you frightened to shit? What was that like?
Okay. I was terrified to be pregnant. As a little kid, I saw Alien. and, and I was like, I was traumatized from that. I was so scared. But no, I honestly, like, I'm sorry. I hate even saying this out loud. I really try to keep this to myself because it doesn't win me friends at all. But I had really easy pregnancies. So,
And births too?
yeah. So Mackenzie, I was terrified to give birth, like
Who's your
literally
first?
terrified. She was my first. I did go a week over my due date with her. So I was induced. I was terrified about that too, because you hear all these horrible things and you better not get an epidural because it's going to like mess up your kid's brain. And like, man, you want to get anxious. I mean, the fact that feeling like it's your responsibility, like the quality of someone's rest of their life by the choices that you're making while you're pregnant with them. Like
So they were natural childbirths, like no pain.
no, no. Kenzie, so I was induced. So I had an epidural and, it's induced with a drug called Pitocin. So no, it was not a natural childbirth, but it was wonderful. And I like to share this too. Mackenzie is freaking smart as crap and I see no negative side effects. And I was literally watching the Cosby Show while I was in labor until they were like, okay, push now. And I pushed and she was born and it was freaking wonderful. Jerem, similar. Kyle, my third, was really interesting because I was induced. All of my kids went over their dates. So if you're pregnant for too long, that can pose problems too. Like that can put the baby in danger as well. So here I was, I'm past my due date again with my third baby. I'm induced. The doctor couldn't be there. He had an office party. He did let me know he wouldn't be able to be there. He's like, I'm letting you know I won't be able to be there to break your water. So hopefully it breaks or there's another doctor around to do that. There wasn't. So I was in labor for 8 hours with Kyle before we finally gave up and I went back home. And that was one of the angriest. No shame angry. Like I was just freaking pissed was when I went back home still pregnant after being overdue with my third baby after 8 hours of labor. So we after that, I kind of went into labor on my own. And so I had like a surprise natural childbirth with him. Like I got to the hospital and she's like, girl, you're like almost there. She's like, you can get an epidural, but if you want to see what it's like you're pretty close. Like this is about as bad as labor gets. I was like, let's do it. Cause I thought Kyle was going to be my last baby. Yeah. It hurt really bad. It's different for every woman, but like, sorry, TMI, but what it felt like was like birthing a flaming ball of shards of glass. It hurt really freaking bad. But yeah, it was fine.
What about your fourth?
Micah's was blissful, man. Like if I could share anything, anybody like having babies, one, don't call anybody and tell them that you're having your baby until after you have your baby. That is one of my biggest tips ever because it's so freaking stressful knowing everybody's like waiting and you're like,
right. You don't want that outside pressure.
Yeah, man. And it's like somebody's trying to like run in the door as soon as you've had your baby. Like you kind of just want that like special private time with you and your husband, and like Micah's birth was so peaceful. Like we learned, so yeah, I was induced with him. I'm a huge fan of epidurals. I'm like, why get your arm cut off with no drugs when they have drugs that can help you with that? Like that's, and Micah's super smart, super athletic, wonderful kid. Like nothing bad happened to him.
None of those things bear true.
Yeah, he doesn't have like an extra spontaneous nose or anything from it. So anyway, that's just my experience. I just want to be a voice out there because I feel like there's like a lot of shaming on women. Like it's like you're not a woman if you don't have natural childbirth. And I had both. And I'm like, dude, I'm a huge fan of the epidural. Like that freaking is life-changing. It was like, I was not in a stress state. I was like just blissed out. Like, oh my God, my baby's here. Like, anyway, so that's my 2 cents.
Love it. On the note of children, what makes you a great mom?
I think it's my real connection with them, like as human beings. Like I don't do like baby talk, like or anything like that. Like I really want to get to know them and what they're thinking. And I think also like giving them full permission to be themselves, right? Like, so I really honestly, like I look as motherhood as like a mentorship role. Like what would I want somebody to teach me when I was growing up, like,
or what did I miss that I can,
like what really matters, and then also like, honestly, just the fact that I love them, just being loved. I was like, my parents had so many personal issues, but I never doubted if they love me or not. And I truly think as I work with people one-on-one and some of the healing work I do behind the scenes, I see the detrimental effects of a child who didn't feel loved or wondered if they were loved growing up. So I'd say like the biggest gift we can give our kids is make freaking sure that they know that you love them. Like say it, like hug them. Like Mackenzie's 15 years old. I still hug her. I give her big kisses on the cheek. Like, I'm like, I love you, Kens. You're so awesome. Like I don't want her to be like, oh, she knows I love her. Like bullshit. She might not. Like say it, show it.
Nonstop. I'm a fan of like nonstop, never too much, doesn't matter. And on that note of you, being sweet with your 15-year-old, I still snuggle with my mom, guys. Okay. I'm in my
beautiful.
40s. I like really snuggle with her. I will get in there. I love the smell of my mom's skin. I love kissing her every chance I get. It's like if I'm walking around, just lean over and kiss her. Like I love nothing more than snuggling up with my mom. And I know a lot of people my age that still don't do that. And so if you can make that happen and but you have to force it. I mean, remember my mom being like, oh, you're not too old. Get over here.
Yeah.
And you're in college and you're like, I'm cool. I think, and it's like, no, come over here. And she fostered it by making it happen. And I noticed that kids that don't have the relationship, it's like the parents drop the ball on that somewhere. Like I agree. Have to be that. Yeah, I
agree. So physical touch is one of my top 2 love languages. So I think that helps. But we had a joke with my son, Jerem, like, cause I love when my kids on weekends come in and just all like crash on top of me in the bed and we all just like snuggle and hang out. And like, I love that so much. And so Jerem his voice just changed within like the last year sometime. And so we were joking about it before his voice changed, he's 12. I was like, we were joking about, it's like a running joke in our family. I'm like, Jairus, that's going to be weird when you're like a teenager and you're like, hey mom, I want to snuggle. And so we joke. He does that all the time now. He's like, mom, I want to snuggle. It's adorable. It's funny, but yeah, we still like dog pilot and like,
that makes me so happy to hear that. I was assuming you were snuggly and I'm assuming like your kids were probably raised them that way, but that's really sweet that you have that. And I guess that was my next question, your love language. What's your top love language? I know we have like a top 2 or 3, but what's your top? And I guess I'll just say for the people who don't know about the 5 love languages are words of appreciation, quality time, gifts, acts of service, and physical touch. So what
Yeah.
would you say yours is?
I mean, it's really tough, I would say very, very tied with physical touch and quality time. But like I feel like honestly, like my biggest love language is maybe not even in that book. And that's just like it's seeing another person completely and like and wanting the best for them. Like when I'm around that kind of energy, that's I mean, that's currently, what I've experienced with my partner. It's just like, thank you for like getting it. It's more of like the soul connection of like we just get it. We're just on the same vibe. We think similarly in our responses to things. We want what's best for each other. I think that like wanting when you can see that somebody you want what's best for them and they want what's best for you, like that's irresistible to me. That's beautiful. Like everything else just falls into place, because it's a very selfless energy. But, if I have to pick from the book, I would say, yeah, I'm very touchy. Like I have to watch that on myself because I don't have boundaries sometimes. And people who don't like to be touched, I pick up on it real quick. But like I love to like just yeah, girlfriends, guy friends, whatever, just touching arms or just like, oh, I love you. Like that's definitely like my vibe. And then as long as I feel comfortable, if you're a friend of mine, I've like never ever touched you, like something, I'm not comfortable around you, just let you know.
If I have never like inappropriately touched you, then no. That's great.
Yeah, but yeah, quality time, right? Like definitely not quantity time. I am not a believer. I am not at all a proponent of quantity time as a love language. That's effing bullshit. Like the quantity time sucks. Quantity time means you got nothing going for yourself. Like go out there, go out with your friends or do something personal
Yeah,
that
you're
you
probably
love.
codependent if you're quantity.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then when we come back together, let's be present AF. That's amazing. I love living like that.
Uh, One clarifier that I was wondered about. Now, Tara on previous episodes have chatted, or you've mentioned in part of your struggle when you left the Mormon church, you left your husband, and you talk about how like you didn't have any money, there was no alimony, there was no child support. Why
Yeah.
is that? Is that Utah law? What the fuck?
No. So what happened was I moved in with the guy that I had kind of an unhealthy relationship, I had a learning relationship for a year and a half after my divorce, like right after, and we moved in together. And so when we moved in together, my ex-husband refiled to not have to pay alimony. And then when things
So
end,
that must be a Utah thing. So just because you moved in with
yeah.
another man, that cut off the alimony?
Yeah, they can refile to not have to pay alimony anymore.
Oh, that's effed up. All right, go ahead.
Right. And then what happened was like because everything was hitting the fan and I was seeing that I was becoming destitute, he was in the middle of refiling all that stuff and I asked him, I'm like, this sucks so bad, but I'm gonna have to ask you to take the kids like during the week and I'm gonna have to do
Right.
it every other weekend thing. So because of that, then
Got it.
then he didn't have to pay child support anymore. It
Did
all
you
happened at
later
once.
get either of those things?
No.
So you never
Mm-mm.
got child support.
I mean, for a year, for like before that for like a year and a half before we refiled that. But yeah, but when everything hit the fan, when I literally was at ground zero, I had nothing.
Nothing. Yeah, when I was
So it was
just curious
scary,
about
but it was
that.
good for me. It was good for me
Yeah.
because it pulled me there. You can't be in victim mode at all. It's like figure it out or be homeless. Like there's no in between here.
Right. Right.
So yeah.
Oh my gosh. Amazing. Triumphant. Any fears in life, like a fear of heights or a fear of flying
Oh
or,
yeah, man.
any of those things that you're like, oh, I fear of spiders or like any of that kind of stuff?
Oh man, heights are so hard for me. You know
Oh,
what's
really? But
interesting?
you hike on tall things. So are you weird
That's what I
about
was gonna
sitting
say.
back close to the edge or?
Dude, I don't know what it is, but when I'm hiking, I can be like hop, skip. They can be like sheer cliff and sheer cliff on either side of me. And I'm
Okay.
like, do. I don't
So
know
it's
why.
just tall building balcony stuff kind of thing?
Yep. I will literally like get that like woozy, like I'm going to vomit feeling if I look over a high balcony and like just doing stuff where it's like ropes courses and things where I don't feel secure for some reason. It's like if I have
So
enough
zip lining would be like, F that.
I do it. I definitely do it but I'm like shaking and crap. Like it definitely gets to me, like
Yeah.
and then skiing and snowboarding scare the crap out of me because of the speed at which you're flying down some tall height and I don't feel in control. Like that scares the living bejesus out of me. So yeah,
And
heights.
you're in a skiing kind of place. So do you kind of not ski very often or is
Yeah,
it just
so
like you're
that
bunny hilling it for fun, just kind of hanging?
Yeah, if my friend Barton, who owns Upgraded Formulas, listening, I'm sorry, Barton. He tried really hard to hold me accountable, but I've been asking friends to hold me accountable and stuff to go get ski or snowboarding lessons, and I keep not following through because I always want to catch up on work stuff when I have an extra weekend. But no, it's really sad. It is actually really sad because I live in some of the best skiing in it's right in my backyard.
To each their own.
But I haven't gotten there yet.
So, okay, what about I'm gonna get all this stuff in here. If your kids, okay, let's say your kids were out for the week at their dad's and you could just, it didn't matter, like you could put off
Nature,
work, vacation it. If you could
nature.
design your perfect day,
Yeah.
how would that go? How would that whole day go?
Okay. Sleep in, hit the gym. Honestly, like come back and make my own food. I just like my own food more usually than restaurant food. And then go be in nature, go hike, go be up. Like, if there's water involved, that would be amazing.
How would you
And that
end that day if you get back from the hike and the outdoor excursions and what do you, or
with someone, with my boyfriend or with friends, some sort of like social, if I could, like, I love to have people over at my house and just like have food and hang out
yeah,
and
chill,
just
hang out?
talk and chill. Yep. That would be like an absolutely perfect day. With that, I could do that like without my kids or with my kids too. Like
Sure.
either the both options, like that would be like perfection for me.
What about if we had, now it's funny because people are always like, well, if you're on death row, what would you eat, right? But the truth is that like they only allow 20-30 bucks for these death row meals. By the way, I hate to ruin it for everybody. They're not gonna pay for the filet mignon. But let's just say that you could have anything you wanted. What would be your top three choices if there was like a death row, like you could have three kind of meals? What cuisines or what types of things would you
Yeah.
be like these things right away?
Okay, the first thing that comes to my mind is like some super legit Mexican food from
Mm-hmm.
like a abuelita, like legit, like
Yeah.
hardcore,
What would that be? A
Mexican.
burrito, like what would it be?
Maybe like some homemade
Mm,
tamales, and like
yum.
some mole, some sort of like maybe enchilada or something with mole sauce, like really like made from scratch, like
Yeah.
amazingness, some guac, chips with it, that kind of stuff. That, yeah, legit carne asada, like the real, so it's like a steak that you just kind of like rip it up and you dip it in like your
Yep.
beans and rice with, rip up the tortilla. Like, oh man, I love that stuff. Mexican food is by far my favorite. Um, I know this sounds crazy, but like I love sweet potatoes so much. It's ridiculous. Like they like
Wow.
even right now my mouth is watering. Like, and I
Like
eat
I've
them like
never even heard anyone say that about sweet potato.
I'm like my mouth is watering just thinking about them, and I have some in my fridge. I ate them yesterday. I eat them like it's unbelievable. I don't understand if they have something in them that my body really
Yeah.
needs. It's like this crazy. They've never
It's
gotten
like
old
one of your
yet.
favorite foods, obviously.
Every day. That's all I ever really want to eat. It's
Wow.
crazy. For
Okay. That's a
years,
shock. I was like, I've never heard anyone say that about sweet. I mean, that's amazing. Okay. That's
I
interesting.
love them. Garbanzo beans are similar to me. So I'd say the third would be like some really legit Indian like curry with like garbanzo beans or like
Mhm.
falafel and like an amazing flavor curry. Ugh, yes. So that'd probably be my jam. I like stuff that's like, I like to cook my own food. So what's a huge problem solver for me is when something took forever to simmer and a bunch of sauces and spices and whatever, like, and I didn't, if somebody did that for me, that's great.
All right. Okay. So let's just say it's summer. Okay. So there's like no weather situations going on. And you're hanging around the house by yourself for hours, the whole day, whatever. You're just doing stuff around the house. You've already gone to the gym. What are you wearing? What do you wear around the house?
Gym clothes for sure. Yeah,
Like
gym clothes.
Lululemons and like a t-shirt? Are you
Yeah,
barefoot? How do you do it?
I hate pants so bad. I hate pants. I literally
Me
like
too.
I
I hate
seriously
them.
only work out in workout pants because I bought them or because they look better on Instagram. It's true. Like they
Oh,
just
really? Like even workout pants you don't like?
no, ugh, like
Oh,
I
okay. I
don't.
thought you meant pants pants.
I'm
All
like,
right.
why? Because I crush it in there, right? Like I in my head, I'm thinking I'm getting ready to go like run sprints and get super hot and sweaty, or be on the stair mill doing intervals. And like, do I want pants on while I'm doing that? Not really.
So
Or
what's
running
preferred? Short shorts?
booty shorts. Like the shorter the better, right?
Yeah.
Like
So like
honestly,
your
like
like
if
bathing suit shorts almost. Yeah.
I mean, real, I do. I work out even at the gym. I work out in like little short, like I love the Lululemon, like
You
high
rock the shit
waisted.
out of them too, girl. Let's not.
Because I want to be wearing as close to nothing as possible. And
Okay.
like, I'm sorry if that makes other people uncomfortable, but it's like, it is so much more comfortable to work out in, and it's way less laundry. So like the little high waisted, Lululemon has some, and I found a few other companies that have them, but the high waisted, somewhat, they can't be too booty short. I don't want my butt hanging out, but I want them
Right,
like,
right.
I don't want them restricting my legs very much when I'm running. Like I don't want to feel them. And like a sports bra, like that's,
So
yeah.
around the house, you'd be wearing like short shorts and a sports bra on a summer non-affected day. You're just
Yeah,
hanging
or
out.
if my house is a little cold, I might throw like a long sleeve top on with it or something. But yep, that is
Mhm.
my MO. And when I'm feeling very like on top of my life, I like get dressed for the day and I'm wearing jeans, and it's like I'm pretending that I'm that kind of person.
um. Okay. Let's see. Da, da, da. I have so many questions for you. Okay. When you want to, or in the past, whenever, when you want to indulge in something shitty, food wise,
Yeah.
something that's, not a top
Yep.
choice you and I would ever make, if you could make one shitty food item healthy, right? Let's not like if you can make donuts healthy because you fucking love it, like what would you choose that you're like, oh man, cake, if cake could be good for you, that would be freaking awesome. Like what would be that shitty treat thing that you
Mm.
wish like was healthy?
Well, I actually have, so donuts and pizza are my two favorite indulgences. I
Okay.
have
Yeah.
found some healthy donuts that are really good. They're still not quite the same as like regular
Yeah.
donuts. But so like if I'm gonna indulge, I get a legit donuts, like a maple bar. Oh God, yeah. Sorry, everybody. I just said maple bar. I'm sorry. Now you're gonna be programmed in your mind. You're gonna go get a maple bar in the next 72 hours. Just kidding.
I know.
But
It's like
yeah.
once you hear it, you're like, yeah.
Like Tara eats maple bars. This is it. I just gave everyone permission. But it's rare. You know what I mean? But I love maple bars. I love like cake donuts too. Those are insanely good.
Mhm.
Pizza, like, I make my healthier versions of
Right.
pizza. It's still not the same as regular pizza. So I'd say like, man, if we can make regular pizza, like straight up regular, and it's just like, didn't matter. You just eat that all day, every day. It's like eating sweet potatoes and it gets you your goals. That'd be awesome.
Mhm.
So yeah, those are my two faves.
What's a place in the world you haven't gone but you really want to visit?
Peru,
Okay. What is a place you have gone to and you loved and you would like to return?
Spain.
Ah, okay. What part of Spain? Anything specific, particular?
Oh man, I mean Madrid, just because like I have people that I met there that I would love to like reconnect with them. But when I think of Spain and like where my heart is southern Spain. Is so freaking magical down there. So yeah, I'd love to get back to the south of Spain.
Do you have what are some of your favorite movies, either comedy or drama? Like if it were to come on TV and you're alone and you're like had some time,
Mhm.
you'd kind of keep it on. Do you have any kind of favorites that make your? I mean, I know we all have so many
Yeah,
different favorite movies. It's hard to choose, but
you want to know what's really embarrassing, but it's true. I love a good Cinderella story
oh
movie.
yeah. Hmm.
The reason I love Cinderella so much, so Cinderella was like my favorite Disney movie. And the reason I loved Cinderella so much is because despite all the shit she went through, she still maintained her beauty inside. She
Aw.
never let that. I was like, I admired that so much. And my childhood was kind of hard. It obviously wasn't that hard, but I loved that about her. I was like, dude, it doesn't matter like how they treat her. Like she stays true to the beauty that's inside her.
Love it.
So I love even like the ever after, Drew Barrymore shit. Like I
You
I
know,
like
I
movies
met
like
the
that. That's my girly
I
side.
yeah, I met the producer of that film.
Oh,
I actually
really?
have never even seen it, but I know everyone loves it and it's
Well,
constantly on. I should check it out. Ever After with Drew Barrymore. Yeah.
yeah, tell them they did a good job. And I love like epic movie, like Gladiator is
Yeah.
like I could watch that movie over and over and over. Like Dances with Wolves and those kind of movies. Like I love movies like that as well.
Do you have a favorite fiction book?
I struggle with fiction.
Okay.
I love like mindset and
Yes.
anything that makes my life better. I'm obsessed with, but fiction, man, my favorite fiction book that I have read probably is The Help. The
Ah,
one
okay. The
about,
one that became the movie.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, just because like I felt like it highlighted some stuff that really needed to be taken, take a look at or whatever. So I guess if it's fiction, I still want it to have some sort of like get people thinking side to it. But yeah, that book was really well done.
What do you wear contacts or glasses?
I have implantable contact lenses, ICLs. I cannot recommend them enough. It is amazing. It means
Wow.
I have I'm very nearsighted.
Okay.
2020, I'm like 2,400 the last I checked. So what you could see from 400 feet away, I would have to be 20 feet away. So ICLs are really cool because they don't like burn your eye or do any kind of change to your eye. They can take them back out and replace them with new ones, which I think is cool because we're still kind of pioneering with LASIK and all that. And most people I know who have had LASIK end up having to wear contacts or glasses later. ICLs are like maybe a teeny bit more expensive, but so worth it because it's completely
Fascinating.
reversible. Yeah,
I did not even know. I'm
they're
learning
amazing.
a lot here. um, Other than when you're super sore, you did some crazy thing. Are you're weight training 7 days a week pretty much, right? Or no?
Right now, I am 6 days a week. I am preparing for a bikini competition. It's been extremely eye opening. It's heavy volume. Yesterday I had a rest day and it was the first time, usually, yeah, 7 days a week. Cause I just kind of do my own thing and I'm kind of
Right,
in
right.
my routine or whatever. And I'm obviously not pushing myself as hard as I could be. This has been a huge new push. So like yesterday I was like, I freaking need a rest day. My body is like tanked. So, yeah, right now that's what I'm doing.
I cannot wait to see the pics from that competition. You're going to kill it. Um,
It's interesting. It's an interesting place to be in because it's not really me.
right.
To be
Yeah,
honest,
yeah, huh.
I'm going in the hole to see what this whole industry is like. So yeah,
Go in there and like make a documentary while you're in there.
kind of.
All right. So, what are last couple of questions here? What are your favorite scents? Either do you have a favorite perfume brand, or what are some of your favorite smells? Like, do you love vanilla? Do you love lemon? Like, like what are your favorite
Mm.
smells?
I like clean smells, like things that smell like clean laundry, like clean that kind of smell. I way prefer over like any other house smell. Vanilla's nice too, but I really don't like the smell of lavender. I like,
Ah,
ugh. So it's like it's okay, but when I see something, I won't buy it if all they have is lavender. I'm like, ugh.
okay.
But I for scents myself, I love Flower Bomb by Victor Rolf,
Mhm.
I think, and there's like a female Aqua di Gio that I'm using lately. I love that one. So more of like a clean smells are definitely where I like to go. It's all with my little OCD. I like everything clean thing. Yeah.
Let's see. What's the what's one of the best pieces of advice you've gotten, no matter what the field, subject matter, or anything? It could be something you heard when you were 7, doesn't matter what it's about. Or something you remember.
Well, I guess this one's popping up right now. I don't know if it's the best ever, but it's definitely something that really stuck with me. That my mom taught me growing up. And she would always say, if something doesn't make sense, someone's lying. And that came up with me. That came up, as I'm filtering through a lot of information all the time, like in the health field and relationship, teachings and personal development, mindset, like all this stuff. And I think that's a really cool filter to work through because there's a lot because we live in this information age, like everybody wants a voice, everybody wants something to say. And I have learned, like, I'm like, when something's not making sense, they're not telling the full picture. They're not telling the full truth. And so I'm always observing that in myself too. I'm like, am I not being clear? Like, what am I missing? What am I not saying? Like, what am I fudging over? Like, where do I not have clarity? Right. So I observe that in myself too. But yeah, I kind of watch for like, I feel like a lot of times people will listen to like gurus and then they feel like something's wrong with them because they didn't understand what the guru was saying. And I'm like, like if they're an effective teacher and they're this like pure truth is simple and very easy to understand. So if it's like you're going in
That
circles,
philosophical principle of Occam's razor, it's usually the simplest
yeah.
explanation
So if
is
you're like going in
yeah.
circles and you're like, I'm so confused, but they sound so smart, it's probably not you.
Right, right, right. Okay, last but not least, I don't want you to second guess this or spend too much time. If you have to rattle off a bunch of things that you think are freaking awesome about yourself and that you love about yourself, what would those things be?
All right. Well, um, well, I guess I could say I know that I have a lot of persistence. I have a lot of endurance. I can definitely own that. Like I feel like I can keep going when others might quit. I also like I'm brave. I'm a bit fearless. I know that I'm willing to step out and like freaking like take the arrows that other people might not be willing to take. If I feel like something's the right thing to do, I'll do it, whatever the cost is. I don't care. Like, I'm not easily like bought. I'm not a sellout. Like, I won't do something just because it seems like people might like that or want that. I'm like, screw that. I'm very connected to like and higher intelligence, I'd say. And I think that's, I don't know if it's a gift or if it's just something I choose a lot, but I like that about myself, that I feel like very heart centered and connected to something bigger than me. Like I have a sense of obligation and duty to like serve from that place, instead of just me doing whatever I think is great. Like I believe that there is intelligence that I can tap into that provides more than just what I currently am seeing. I care deeply about people. And yeah, I don't know. I guess that's it. I'm strong. I definitely, I feel like I'm not easily broken. And I like that about myself. And I'm willing to see my own shadows. I love seeing my own shadows. I love feedback. I beg people for it. I'm like, I promise I won't be offended. Like, if you can just like tell me what was positive and what was negative about your interaction with me, like that is so freaking valuable for me. So I feel like I'm very open to seeing my own blind spots, and then like willing to take that sucker punch of a moment where it freaking sucks and I have to admit that about myself, and I'm like, it's fucking true. And then doing the work to change that, like I'd say is a strength of mine, something I like about myself.
Okay, one last button. I could keep going. I wish this was like 2 hours.
I know this is fun. I gotta get.
I'm learning so much. What is, in general? I mean, obviously, there's going to be more than one answer to this question, but like, so many people are differ on this. Like, what's your favorite body part on a guy that makes you just feel like, I mean, other than like maybe the obvious one, no, but but I mean, is it like shoulders? Is it like hands? Is it chest? Or is it like all that V by the, like, what is it that, when you see on you're like,
Okay, so we're talking like, cause like I'm not trying to like sound like a good person when I say this, but like the light coming from their eyes and smile is definitely the first thing that I notice. Like that is hands down like everything, right? Cause it's like it's their energy. But if we want to talk like physicality, physique or whatever. Well, I don't know if it's like the top one per se, but one thing that I have noticed that I'm a little bit of a sucker for is when it sounds so bad, but when guys have nice glutes, I'm like, aha, because it reflects a certain level of athleticism, right? To me,
well, and attention to health too, because you don't
yeah.
just get a good pair of glutes unless you're obviously spending some time on it.
Exactly. It shows like, it's terrible because it's like, this is my weakest spot. Maybe that's why I admire it so much, because I struggle so much, but it shows, that you're doing more than just like mirror stuff, than just like, I gotta have big pecs and shoulders. It shows that you're actually doing things that make your body work right. And so it's like, it's admirable to me that they've been able to achieve that. And probably, maybe it's just because I'm jealous too. But yeah, it's cool because it's the most powerful muscle, besides the jaw. So it's attractive.
That's awesome. All right. Wow. I could do so much more of this. We went over a little bit, but thanks everyone for joining us, and we will see you next week.